Hello and welcome to the behind the scenes look at how a championship Marble League event is made. This video will go into how the track is made, how the events generally go, and the editing process of my videos. So, to begin with, I must make the track, which obviously means I must have a finisher at the bottom. This track will be called Diverging Driveway, so I will obviously need to hunt for a lot of split tracks in my pieces. So I have gathered 5 split tracks. I think that should be enough. Likely because of all the splits this will include, this will be an endurance track. Of course, my names, if you didn't notice, Diverging Driveway, North Knoxville, etc., etc., do utilize a lot of literary devices and are related to either a specific marble or a specific theme. So, I believe now it is time to start building. Often I do like to have a funnel at the bottom of the track because it provides one final opportunity for passing, and I wouldn't want it to be hopeless at the end. So, funnel at the bottom. So then from there, I will utilize the double funnel because it does conjoin 2 split tracks, and of course, there are a lot of split tracks on this Diverging Driveway. So, that will be used. Additionally, I do like to keep the last funnel on without anything above it because, you know, these toppers do sort of obtrude the final portion of the race and could nullify the action. So I always do try to prevent that. However, some theming that does make it unpreventable, but of course you always make an effort for that. So from there, I'm going to do a down and back with some of these long pieces here. And something important to note is that you always have to keep the pieces even. Sorry, I only have one hand to work with. But it's always important to keep it even because it makes sure the competition stays even. So I can't just go and put 2 blue pieces here and then both the green pieces here, because if you've been watching my content, the blue pieces, they are inherently faster than the green pieces. So we would have to do 1 of each type per split. So now 1 more of these so I can come back. Because I always do like to use these pieces in succession because they are good at providing height and a transitionary period. And there, now we can utilize 1 of these pieces to split off the track. Now there are several more to go, so to keep my height, I'm going to use a separate table. So I'll be using this table, one that I often use, and I'll also be implementing the scrambler backed by popular demand from commenter Brightline129. I do take requests from the commenters, you know, because I do want to foster an active community. So yes, I will be including this piece as sort of a bridge of the gap between the 2 tables, and I will be catching it with this red piece here. As you can see, it would provide enough surface area. However, it feels like something that is worth testing, so I will do that. So now there are 2 reasons why you do want to test your pieces. 1, to make sure everything works. 2nd reason, I'll get to that in a little bit. Let me just make sure it works. First with 1 more. Ooh, that is very precarious. I should probably try a couple more. Okay, it seems to work, but a bit of a tilt does add a variable to things, so it looks like the catcher is working. Now let me just do a complete wear on the marbles. Make sure that also works as intended. And it looks like, yes, it does. So now I will be utilizing a jump to get the marbles onto it to make sure that all the surfaces are even. That's also part of what this is doing, is making sure that we have completely even surfaces so that we avoid some of the issues that sometimes you see outside while filming when it comes to the marbles being uneven. That was especially prevalent in the green pieces for round number 3, so I think it's worth testing this also to make sure it does not completely collapse. So yes, it is working fine still, even with the jump. So from here, I'm going to do something that was really popular, but I've only done once before, and also fits with the track name. I'm going to do a 4-way split funnel. So now I noticed it would probably take up too much room and height, so I did end up replicating it to the other side. Let me just do this for a bit of support, because otherwise it would be A, 2 tubes higher, and B, would take up too much room on this specifically. It needs to be pushed down a bit, but that is why I chose to do the split. So now at this moment I am building stacks of tubes to have the height covered for this piece, and you'll notice the piece sticking out. That is just a support piece, so that, I'm so bad at building with one hand, so that the marbles do have that adequate level of safety so the track does not fall over, and worst of all, it does not become an oblongated piece. So now that step of the process is done, now I can start building the funnels. For this one, I'm going to be using one regular funnel and one obstacle funnel. So you can see I am placing the funnel here, and then I will have to use one of the toppers that is out of my control, and then the obstacle funnel will go on top. Repeat that 3 more times, and you end up having like this, at least for the first 2. Now the other ones, instead of being stacked vertically, they will be just one here, then the other here, here, so that they can catch up distance-wise to the other 2, so that we have to use less pieces and less bases, because even though we have quite literally a myriad of pieces combined with the 2, a lot of these end up going unused, save for that blue moon. Sort of like that loop that we used last round, 2 rounds ago. This is being filmed between round 3 and round 4. However, when you're seeing it, round 4 would have already happened. So, yeah, I will get on that right now, and there you go. Now they are both equal. However, now I do need to raise them and also put the obstacles in the obstacle funnel. Something I perennially forget to do. If you ever see me cut before I actually do any races, it's because I forgot to put the obstacles in the obstacle funnel. Sometimes I do make mistakes, but I do always try my best to hide those mistakes. Like sometimes you'll see me make up these crazy stories about employees and cheating and whatever the heck else. To be perfectly honest with you, that is just me covering up my mistakes that I don't find out until the editing phase and making that into a cohesive product so that I could keep the integrity of the Championship Marble League. So, yeah, that is why you sometimes see that happening. now these pieces have been built, albeit in a precarious way. The not rigid nature of this track will be something the marbles will have to contend with. It can be a feature sometimes when done properly. So now I just need to connect the two. So now I have connected it with one split. So now in an 8 marble heat race, each marble, there will be 2 marbles on each side of the split. Oh my gosh, I still forgot the obstacles that I said on camera. But anyway, that's what happens. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to include a couple more funnels to get the time up and and potentially add one more split. No, I'm not adding another split, sorry, but it would be too much work, especially with this framework and height. But yeah, add a couple more funnels, put the starter on, and then we have a track. And of course, put the obstacles on. So now as I put the extra funnels on, you'll notice something that I use. There's multiple different types of tubes. There's these tubes, and then these tubes. So the ones I just showed you, the perfect cylinders, they could let marbles through and they form as a good base. The caveat with the second kind, these ones, they came with a rail set that I never used really because it didn't work that well. Don't buy it if you're planning on buying any Marble Genius equipment. But yeah, that can't take any marbles through it because it's designed for the rails. And these green ones, the cube ones, these came with a set of block pieces that I have used in a couple of episodes. And I sort of just interchange these with the tubes, as you may have seen here. But the issue with those is you can't really do it if it's one of these 2/3 tabs here, because then it would slide around like that. You can't have that because then all the balance would be thrown off. So that's why we need one of the first 2 types on here. I just thought it'd be useful to point out. So now I have added 3 more funnels so that it can be an adequate endurance track length. So now we move on to the second purpose of testing the track. And that, well, it's also sort of the first purpose, but that is so the track can get level. And it's sort of a new thing I discovered. You've noticed that ever since B-League Season 2, I've started tracking fastest lap. And the fastest lap, 3 out of every 4 times, has been race number 1. And I've noticed it's because the track is less stable, but marbles going on it, the very act of it, does end up restabilizing it. So now let me just do an elapsed time video of my, of that. Okay, in hindsight, maybe I shouldn't have done all the mini marbles, because I have not tested those on that, and that's why you should always test that, because these marbles with fewer millimeters always do perform differently. As you can tell, they have gotten stuck in many places. So while I clear those the best of my ability, a few other things to know about my filming. So, of course, I don't have any special filming equipment. I just film with an iPhone. So, it's an iPhone 12 mini that I do film with. So, yeah, it does work for me, and it doesn't have any of those crap AI features that are sometimes seen on things. So, basically, I'll have it planned out for season number 3. So, you don't have to worry that it will all happen despite my parents telling me that I should take a break for it. I will continue my content because I know you viewers desire it. In fact, one of you said you look forward to it every week. Some might also as well. Oh, dang it, these marbles, they are not cooperative. But yeah. Oh my gosh. We're catching all this on camera. Nah, it's fine. It could be a spectator. But now we wait for this to load, you can see that I have now started the editing process. If you're unaware, I do use iMovie for this. As you can see, I do film everything in one go. However, I do use the iPhone pause feature. So now for editing, So as you can see here, this is my old video, all of this, and I am just going to be copying one of the graphics from the previous video and putting it into the new video. And I will basically be using that as a framework for the graphics throughout. Why'd that change? And as you can see, the graphic is actually the base of the footage, and I will show you why later. Yes, anyway, now everything's onto the graphic. Then I can begin the editing process. Often I just look for 10-second intervals to start everything. Yes, so all the graphics I tend to do in 10-second intervals, and before I forget, I need to change this to picture-in-picture. That is how it works. So, you need to set it to swap, and then set this to full screen. And if you're wondering, I basically just use titles, then go all the way down to this upper graphic, because it's the only one that can really do mixed case. I started using it back in the Marble Marathons. I do include the roundup here. That needs to be 4. And then for this card, I'm just using the title, which is Round 4 Championship Marble League. So, now that is prepared. You can see there is 3 lines of 3 different font sizes. The bottom line is for results whenever that comes. So I have copy-pasted my standings list onto it, and then I will just plop that there in between the graphics. Now for that, since it is a separate picture from a spreadsheet, I do need to separately crop this. However, that is not too difficult to do. Leave a bit of room here because of older TVs with overscan, but yeah, that is done. And then the other thing I need to do is the format. And now let me just type that out. Okay, so now the format has been created. Oh my gosh, I almost forgot R4. There was one time where I made all the graphics. I didn't split them off. You see, this is some reasons why I split them off. And I had to change all the R1s to R2s, so yep, important to do that. So that is it for graphics, and now I just need to go all the way to the end of the race, all the way until the footage cuts happens, which is that very moment. And then I basically just go off the picture. I almost said Finals Race 5. The joys of cutting the graphic from that. Heat 1, top 2, advance. I need to do that for all of them. Okay, and then I just basically go through the results, obviously. Wolverine got first, Orange Swirl got second, then I just manually type in cut line, because it feels like the colors weren't working that well. I wanted to use colors for other things. Third, Pale Cobra, that will especially be true when we get into the playoffs later in the season, you'll see. Fourth, I can't really tell what that marble looks like, so what I'm gonna do is go back all the way to the start to see what marbles there are. And that looks like Midnight in fourth, Ink in fifth. And then so on and so forth. Then obviously I will mark Blue Swirl as a DNF, and often I will just basically eye it, like, on the fastest lap. Like, that looked like 42.9, and it's nothing scientific. I'm just gonna say that right now. That looked sort of like 85 seconds. So yeah, I'm gonna say that's 85 seconds. Not scientific, doesn't count for a point like F1. Or, it doesn't count. I mean NASCAR. F1 doesn't count it for a point anymore. Yeah, I have a keyboard shortcut set up for that stopwatch symbol, so can make for easy insertion. So then I just rinse and repeat. Ah yes, I almost forgot about something. And that's the roster at the beginning. So you could see there in that paper, but you could see there in that paper that you can sometimes see in the footage. I use that to track the points. That's why that purple pen is there. Yeah, I use it for a lot of stuff. But also, I keep it with me as a reminder of the championship, so I can give you all those cool stats, and then I use it in the editing process, and that's how I figure out what position, so I don't have to toggle between 7 different tabs all the time. Yeah, so then I just list them, so I can see Rattlesnake, that is 21st. Then Orange Swirl looks to be 17th. I do always try to keep it alphabetical. No, not alphabetical, but in order by position. Then Pale Cobra there, that is 3rd. Etc. etc. So then I just do that several times and do the rinse and repeat that I mentioned earlier, and so there it is. All the graphics for the 4 heats have been put in. I usually do put it in digestible chunks so you can see all of them. I did place them. Now you can see for Heat 3, I was going to ask you guys about something in the comments. You can see there, Merck's name, I was wondering if I should highlight the current championship leader's name in blue, similar to how Supercross and Formula 1 have their championship leaders in red. If you think it's a good idea, I will do it. If not, I won't. I won't include it for this one because it would be on such short notice, as you know, I'm releasing this after it's actually, the actual video is going to go out, so I don't want any discrepancies before we have made an official decision. And you can see here what I was telling you about. In an absolute miracle of miracles for the CML, Heat 2 produced a new fastest lap by comparison to Heat 1, so that extra test laps idea worked out. Same with Heat 3, as a matter of fact. As you may have known if you watched, Heat 4 was full of back markers, so it did not. So from there, what I think that I would do is probably I would go to doing going through all the content to see if there's anything that I should make a separate graphic about or make a replay. So I just start the footage and anyway, race number 1. The next furry video keep going until I find something useful. As you can see here, my graphics have gone under many shifts over the not necessarily years. You can see it went from here just waiting for it to go from here to here to here to here to here to here for a short period. Sorry, I need to for here to a short period, to here to here, and then finally to here. So you can see my graphics have gone under a number of shifts over time. So I did end up settling on it because it felt like in the past, with something like this especially, it took way too much time, especially on something like iMovie, to create that. I needed to literally do it in a spreadsheet or something. I don't even know what, but it took way too much work. So I decided to just do something that was native to iMovie. That's why I settled on graphics that look like this. So, anyway, times I will include music at the start. Do note I cannot monetize videos with this music. However, when my subscriber increases started to decline, I decided the heck with it. I'm including music. Yeah, I just used the iMovie preset one, so I just find one that would probably work well for the context. Thing like this. Oh yeah, I also forgot I need to lower down the sound level to about 40%, so you can actually understand me. Maybe even more like 30%. Yeah, so now the music does end up working. That's usually how I do it. I do it for the start, the finish, and then that dramatic music before the final race. That sounds something like The Fateful. However, sometimes I do it in reverse because, it needs to ramp up, and then you get like a sharp increase in sound. I always try to make it look professional while still not taking an overly long amount of time, because obviously it's not my job like some of the other YouTubers you sometimes see. So, yeah, that's sort of the balance I always try to achieve when I do this editing. You can see now that I have added other auxiliary graphics. I did just use something that, instead of being called upper, was called, fittingly, lower. Each appearing at 7-second intervals to not intrude, but still give enough time for things. I also did include a replay where to do that, I do just take out, I split the clip twice, move the clip, and then extend the clip, and then speed this down to, I believe, 40% on this one, and then put the music under it. So, yeah, that's essentially how I did it. I also did it for the last chance qualifier race. Now, you may have noticed something. Actually, never mind. Yeah, I will just tell you. The font that I've been using for all the graphics is called, and I'm sorry if I mispronounced this. I believe it is called Behensschleift. It's something, or, yeah, it's Behensschleift. Behnsschrift. So do correct me if I'm wrong there, but that is the font that I use. I have gone under some font shifts. I have for a little while used Avenir and also Futura, but when my channel started I did use Behensschleift, but so I did end up continuing to use Behensschleift as a theme for my channel. It's also on my thumbnails. It's on my channel logo. It's basically everywhere, except, weirdly, my banner on my channel. That still uses a veneer. And so do my playlists. But yeah, that's basically the font that I use. So now you could see I have included some finals graphics. I mean, it's pretty obvious how they work. I just do the exact same thing but add points at the end of it. I added a couple more graphics, to include points as they run, but it's honestly nothing too special, nothing out of the ordinary. And I think that is it for the construction of the graphics. I would just like to mention, however, that although the fastest laps are just sort of me eyeing it, the CML analytics, I am doing some math to calculate these. In case you were wondering, they're not all made up percentages. So now I've done it all. I've implemented the dramatic music, implemented the music at the end, and then implemented the points at the end. Sometimes, do note, I do need to adjust the length of the music. I also did include a replay at the end of what happened. Yep, it's a 50. Okay, so then after that, I just upload it, sometimes procrastinate, and then make my thumbnail, which I'm also not that good at, and then upload it to YouTube, and then you get to see it for the world to see. So, thank you guys for watching. Sorry if this was not as fun as a CML event. As you know, I am filming this, if you were paying attention, on June 1st, but I am currently, as you're seeing this, in a different country. So, yeah, I will see you next time. Next week we are doing round number 5 of the Championship Marble League. Hope you enjoy. See you then.